Hi, I'm Pastor Goodman, hanging out with COVID Jesus. He coughed for your sins. We're starting a new video series today. We're going to call it Interpreting Tongues, because we know that we're not one of the churches that does the hubba-da-dubba-da stuff where we just sort of gibber back and forth to each other. But at the same time, we also recognize there are certain words that if we sort of just, sprinkle them across how we talk to one another in church, it sounds really religious-like, and that's probably a good thing, and Pastor will be happy with us. But the thing is, if we use all this church talk, but we don't actually know what these words mean, it sort of becomes a tongue unto itself. When we use all these words without actually defining them, the words that were actually given to convey hope and peace and love and mercy are robbed of all of these things, and they just sort of become a way that we babble back and forth to each other to appease a desire to sort of look outwardly Christian. It doesn't help anybody, and so we're going to interpret tongues. We're going to be unpacking some of these church words. The first one we're going to start with, it might just be our most important one. It's called justification. Justification is the doctrine on which the church stands or falls. If you have justification right, everything that we do here will make sense. And if you have justification wrong, most of what we do will sort of seem like a waste of time. Justification. You can find the little word just inside of it, and that'll help us. It's where justice is given to people, or maybe more helpfully here, it's how we deal with injustice. Because as much as we talk about God being a God of love and loving everybody, and that's true, we can also all pretty much agree that there are some things that happen in this world that God should be angry about. There are injustices in this world that are deeply troubling, deeply upsetting. There are tragedies that people are committing unto one another, even called sins that people are committing that really do hurt other people. And there are injustices that actually have to be rectified, that actually have to be made better. Justification is all about how we deal with these sins, these injustices. And when we look at just how awful some of them can be, we can recognize, even if we want to quibble over the definition of what is or isn't a sin, there are some things that need to be fixed because they are broken. Justification. It's a recognition that we need to deal with these sins, and God shouldn't just say, "Don't worry about it." It's a recognition that we need to deal with these sins, and God shouldn't just say, "Try harder," and that will be enough. Justification has to be given. And so justification is where God deals with the injustice, the sins of the world, not by demanding more works from you, but apart from any works you could ever do. He sends forth his Son into the world to bear the consequence, the wrath over injustice. Justification is Jesus dying on the cross for the sins of all the world, for you, for me, for everyone. Justification is Jesus paying the price for all of the awful things that happen in this world, the sins, the injustices. He pays for all of those, the one that everyone can be upset about, and the ones that we try and excuse, and the ones that we try and downplay, and the ones that we try and ignore. Jesus bled and died for all of the sins of all of the world. And there you can recognize that, yes, injustice does have to be punished, but it's not a threat. It's a promise. Justification is the promise that those sins were already punished. Justification is the promise that that punishment already happened. Jesus already bore the cross for you and for me and for everyone. And this is the reason that Christians can talk about sins the way that we do. It's not that we're trying to minimize those who can find salvation or any kind of hope. It's not that we're trying to kick people out. When we talk about sins the way that we do, it's actually because we're trying to gather people in. We want to say, these are the sins that Jesus already died for. You don't need to excuse them. And in fact, you can't. You don't need to just try harder. And in fact, that won't work. Justification is the free forgiveness of sins, one by Christ on the cross for you, for all, apart from any works you can ever do. And this is the free gift of salvation that he has already paid for in blood for you and all of the world. This is the mission of the church, to hand out this justice to all of the injustice of the world. This is the mission of the church, to hand out the free forgiveness of sins paid for by Christ crucified for you and for all. Justification. This is what we stand on. Jesus died on the cross for sinners. That's it. No works. No try your best, no excuse the problem, no blame other people. Jesus died on the cross for the sinners, all of them, and their sins are forgiven. Justification. This has been Interpreting Tongues, round 1 with COVID Jesus.